All right, welcome to Pragmatism USA and the Pragmatism USA podcast and YouTube channel. And today we have a guest. This is Ren Draper. And Ren, I've known you for what, about 30 years actually?
Yeah, it's been that long.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm watching God, man. He's working miracles, man, because you look better than you did 30 years ago, dude.
You got to have your vision checked. So, you know, God needs to work a miracle on your vision.
Hey, you got a wife out of the deal, brother. So something's going for you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, if you could say some shit like that to me, okay, clearly you need your vision checked.
But, all right. That's why I got my glasses on.
So normally what we do is we start off with the rat of the day. I didn't pick a rat of the day today. I think we can always go with Donald Trump being the rat of the day.
If you want, man.
Whatever it is. See,
there's a few, man, but I'm gonna ride with you today.
You're a lot more positive than I am. You're a much more positive man than I am. So that's probably not what you would choose to call certain people, but I think certain people get that designation.
I use choice words, man, but I'm getting better at that. There was a time when MFs and Bs and Cs and Ds, whatever, would come out, man. But, you know, you live through and get over some things, and it enhances your perspective.
Right. So you and I, we talked about this. We wanted to discuss race relations. And, you know, I think you and I have talked about this before, that it's really important for Americans to discuss race. And for us to have open conversations, because all of us can learn something, especially I think white people can really learn something. So I think it's important to discuss this. Say what now, Ren?
I said black people too.
There's never an end, right? Like, you know, you always want to be talking to people to see what you can gain from people.
I agree with that. Everybody's got a little something. I mean, you know, the thing I like about how you and I have been over the years is you've helped my worldliness. There was music I didn't listen to before I met you that since I met you, I listened to, which has opened up doors and people that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So experiences that I don't have, I've been able to gain them from giving people the space that don't look like me often. And that has enhanced business and other things that I do and opened doors that otherwise wouldn't be open. So we should be willing to give everybody a chance, even though all of us have a little bias.
Well, you know, one of the things that you told me for years, and I didn't believe it, you know, because now we've got all these protests going on over police brutality and all the police brutality that has taken place. And for the longest time, I was skeptical as a white person that there was as much police brutality as Black people were telling me there was. And you were telling me that for years, and I was skeptical. I'm no longer skeptical. I clearly see what you've been telling me. How do you get, I will tell you this, Ren, a lot of white people right now do recognize police brutality, recognize that Black people absolutely are treated differently, but a lot of white people don't. How do you get more white people to understand this?
Well, first of all, man, I think Black people across the country are just glad that we've got some white people recognizing it, because you don't change anything with everybody overnight. The best thing, if there is a best thing about this tragedy, is when the bystanders who were watching it heard him crying out for his mother and saw that he had pissed himself, and when they realized, hey, I'm taxpaying and you're an entity I'm supposed to be able to trust. That's why it's been so hard for people, is because the police have always been an entity most people can trust and depend on, always. Your relationship with them has never been like ours, and you're able to trust and depend on them. So when the bystanding, tax-paying people were there and they were like, look, you got him down, enough is enough. And not only did they not stop, he doubled down. And then when the people stepped to him to say, hey man, I know you hear us talking to you, enough is enough, the Asian cops started threatening the bystanders. When the entity went from, okay, this is already too much, to now you're threatening me, that means now they're not looking at Floyd saying that's a Black dude on the ground. When the threat became, that's me you're threatening, you'd put me in the same position too. Everybody saw that. And that is the breach of trust that you can't unsee and that you cannot unfeel. You didn't just see it with your eyes, it registered with your emotions and your soul, and then you saw yourself in his place, or you saw someone you love in his place. And you can't fix that. That's why they're still protesting 2 weeks later and around the world, because that was egregious and there's no denying it whatsoever. Now, you got some people who just going to deny anything at all times, and you've got to leave them for that.
Right. Well, let me ask you this, because one of the things that you're highlighting is the big difference between the way that Black people look at police and the way that a lot of white people look at police. Now, I think a lot of white people have lost trust in police as well, which, by the way, I think is a good thing. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think it's the only way that you're going to reform these institutions is by recognizing all of their flaws. Mm-hmm. But explain to me, okay, what, from your perspective, is, and look, I hate doing this, right? Because, you know, I've told you before, I never want to use one Black person as like the mascot or the spokesperson for all Black people. But just from
I'm not that. I'm not. It's going to be some Black people that see this and be like, wait a minute, bro, you tripping. And I'm okay with that.
Well, you just tell me, okay, your perspective, your family's perspective, your friend's perspective, your Black friend's perspective. What is the idea of the police? What is the relationship with the police?
The history in this country for us that we've always been taught, everybody's taught their historical heritage, how they got here or what they've been here doing and how their contribution to society helps. We've all been taught that. You know your dynamic from where your background is. We all get taught that. From the time there was a police department, okay? We had sheriffs in the 1630s and stuff when people got here, but from the organization of the country as we know it now, 1789, 1791, U.S. Marshals, sheriffs, those types of people, the Fugitive Slave Act, the Second Amendment that allow all those laws happen within 2 or 3 years of each other at the federal level, when the states were still organizing and figuring things out, okay? We've been on the receiving end of policing since then. And it's always been aggressive. If you just go back and look at the Fugitive Slave Act and the way it was written, the original official language of the act, I wrote this down for you. It's an act respecting fugitives, an act respecting fugitives from justice and persons escaping from their service of their masters. That's the full length name of that in 1793. They call it the Bloodhound Act also. We're going to bring you back to service. Police have been brutal, bloodhound towards us since then.
Now, you mentioned being on the receiving end of policing. So is it fair to say, like, the way that you look at it right now is when police are still trying to bring Black people back to service?
Yes. And I'll just take my own personal perspective. Anyone else, I promise you, you can go ask any number of Black people how many interactions they have with the police in their lifetime. I have 42. 7 of them are traffic infractions. The rest of them are stopping my vehicle or stopping my person somewhere they thought I shouldn't be, or somewhere they thought I was doing something that I wasn't doing, so they could engage me. Now, you are my age. How many times have the police stopped you for anything other than you were speeding in one of your nice rides?
Never. Hasn't happened.
Okay. Tell me what the other 36 times they stopped me were for. They stopped me, man, to the point where I was so afraid that the last time they stopped me in my old school, which was the 21st time they had stopped me in 12 months. They surrounded my car. I was terrified. When I got out of that situation, I had to tell them some stuff that one of my police officer clients told me to say, so that they would know I knew what they use as jargon for wants and warrants on my person or ego. I went to the dealership that night and I bought another car. I drove around on that car for more than a couple of years without putting the proper plates on it, and they never stopped it.
So let me ask you, like, for example, okay, let's say tomorrow I wake up, okay, I go outside of my house, my car is missing, okay, I'm going to contact the police.
Mm-hmm.
Would you?
Yeah,
would you contact the police?
yeah.
You'd still feel comfortable with that?
Well, what I would do, depending on where I am, and this is the safest thing that Black people are doing now, which is a damn shame, but it's what they do. When they move into neighborhoods, especially in neighborhoods where there are less Blacks than there are white people, they're doing this thing now where they introduce themselves to the police with their lawyers and their kids. Now, that's not the American dream, but it helps. So I take my kid, myself, and my lawyer into the police department and say, "Way lane over here. This is my son. This is my daughter. They go to this school. They've got this pedigree for grades. They're driving these vehicles. We're good people. We want to meet y'all and let y'all know we here. And if you have any problems with any of us, which you won't, but if you do, you either call me in place of my kid or you call our lawyer." And when I move to Centennial, that's what I'm going to call you and do if you're still in the lawyer spot before you get to Congress. Igor, come with me because I'm going to introduce myself. Now, you don't have to do that.
No, that's never even crossed my mind. You're right.
That's what we do, because from the time I'll bring it forward past the 1700s, but when Martin Luther King went down and he ended up with Bull Connor, they sicked the protest on him. They released dogs on him,
Mm-hmm.
water hoses and everything else. The police have always been aggressive towards us, and they're used just like the white girl did in New York. Okay, I'm going to call the cops and put you in your place. It's not just racism, it is definitely placism.
So one of the things I wanted to discuss today, because every time this happens, this really pisses me off, and it's the same damn playbook. So George Floyd gets murdered by the cops.
Mm-hmm.
And you knew it was only a matter of time, because we've seen this with Trayvon Martin, and we've seen it with the gentleman who was jogging and got killed, and we see it every time that a Black man is killed by white people in a high-profile shooting, okay, or murder in general. Immediately, people start digging up things in the past of the person, as though somehow whatever they did in their past is justification for murdering them at that particular time. Like, see, they just got what they had coming. There's something, I mean, that's got to be just, I find that to be unbelievably offensive.
So do we, but it's cultural. I'll give you the best example I can give you for that. You ever seen Django Unchained?
Yeah.
Okay, remember when Monsieur Condi was telling Bright Boy, he's that 1 in 10,000. He was listening to, I've seen plenty of them, but you that 1 in 10,000.
Okay,
Okay, culturally, our pedigree is always in place. It's always in play, it's what we do. When the girl, you and I talked about this the last time, when the girl from Central Park called and you were like, man, there's no way in the world. I mean, the dude was a Harvard educated. It's just how it's you frame us based on achievement because it's cultural for you. Black people are different. You go to a party, people come to the party. If I came to a party at your place and half the people there were white and didn't know me, the first thing they would be asking me is what I do for a living. It's transactional. How do I know you? I mean, why are you here? We all know you. That's how we got invited. What's your pedigree? And that's how they rank and qualify you to determine. It's just, that's the culture. So yeah, it frustrates me because when that kid fell into that gorilla enclosure in Ohio, they went back and dug up the history on his dad. For what? It's just it is offensive, but it's just part of the culture that white people use because we have to qualify everything to determine whether the use of force or the conflation of whatever was justified or How come it is when we die, we've got to be the criminal, but when those dudes that shot up the church or the theater, it was, oh my God, they had to be mentally ill. They came from a good home, and you see what I'm saying? We are always viewed as lesser than, historically, systemically, culturally. It's like Alexander Stevens' cornerstone speech. It's taught and ingrained.
See,
It's just the way that is.
it seems to me then like what you're telling me is that every Black person feels like they're carrying around a history that could be used against them. Okay.
I won't say every, because we have some Black people who don't see themselves quite as Black. They Tiger Woods it,
And we'll get to that. Yeah, I want to get to those people.
Shelby Steele it.
I want to get to one person in particular, right, that we talked about earlier. But I'm just thinking, I mean, if a lot of Black people are carrying around, as you put it, like the pedigree, okay, and thinking, I'm not just going to be evaluated based on me, but all of my history before me. I mean, hell, that's got to be exhausting day in and day out to live in a white world like that.
Well, yeah, it does get you down. I mean, brothers, some of them don't survive, man. It gets overwhelming, and you got suicide. I mean, Rashaan Salam, dude, that was terrible. I knew that dude. He's 43. He kills himself, man. He's the Heisman Trophy winner, 43 years old. Whatever's not going well in his life for him, suicide. Up in Boulder. I mean, that's where he had his greatest success. That's where you know, you see what I'm saying? You got that happening. People. And I mean, culture by culture have it. I look at LeBron James. This dude has overcome all kinds of obstacles. He's married to the same girl he's been with since high school, mother to his kids. He's taking his money and putting kids through school and giving them tuition and stuff. And he still gets graded. I mean, it is exhausting, but I mean, it is what makes being Black so good, because when you finish overcoming everything you have to overcome to make it out here, when you make it, you're that much better. So a lot of Black people feel like that. Most of them that I know feel like that. And they take great pride. That's why it's so insulting when, like what Drew Brees said, oh, my grandparents, they served, and this pride, that. Okay, we had grandparents that served and people that served, and when they came home, they left and the flag was their enemy. They fought for the flag when it was their enemy. They fought the enemy's flag. They came back home, and instead of getting a hero's welcome, the flag was still their enemy, and they got killed in their uniforms or no help. The white soldiers got everything. The Black soldiers are still sitting back. It would be amazing if we asked for equality and took revenge. But all we really want is some equality. I saw somebody put that up the other day. I thought that was great.
Well, let me ask you something. Okay, I want to ask about this Drew Brees thing, okay? Because, you know, I don't know any athlete. I've said this before. I have no idea what these guys are like in their private lives. I'm not a Saints fan. I'm not a Drew Brees fan. And I'm definitely not a fan of rah-rah patriotism, okay? I'm not a flag-waving, anthem-singing patriot in that sense. I don't believe in cheap patriotism. To me, patriotism is standing up for American values, okay? Even at least the idea of American values, if not the reality of it, okay? But the problem that I had with a lot of the reaction to Drew Brees, okay, is this. We all say, you know, we've got to talk about race, and I agree with that. But I think a lot of people, and especially white people, and we can call it white fragility or whatever you want to, okay? Me, I'm the kind of person, I don't care. I'm willing to discuss politics and race all the time with any person, okay? But a lot of people are not like that, okay? And a lot of people may look at the Drew Brees situation and say, see, he expressed his opinion on this, on something that was unpopular and he knew was going to be unpopular, especially in the Black community, okay, in the minority community, and largely, you know, in parts of the white community as well. And there was no conversation with him. They just bashed him right away, drove him down, and then he apologized in a couple of days. And I think if you have that sort of thing, there's not going to be a lot of conversations. If people feel like they're going to be intimidated out of expressing their true opinion, you're not going to get anywhere anyway. So I'm perfectly okay with criticizing Drew Brees, but I wanted to have a conversation back and forth. And instead, I think what happened to Drew Brees is that basically we just told them, that's it, you're wrong, there's nothing to talk about, apologize right now. There's really like no conversation to be had.
Well, I think I could see that point, and part of me feels like that, but part of me feels like when I saw what he said what he said years ago, and then he said it again this time around. And when he saw his teammate crying, and when he realized how much his kids look up to all those people and he had hurt his people, the tears touched him. And so it's like, okay, well, all right, fellas, what am I missing? And his guys got to him and said, well, our grandparents fought too. And when he got a chance to get past his grandparents and see the pride that other people had in their grandparents, and then it hit him, these advantages that his grandparents got when they came home, these guys didn't get because he's either been to their houses or seen their lives personally, then he's like, oh, wow. He had a moment where, okay, I can see myself in this hurt. And I think that's why he drew back. And that's why he even went back at the president, because he said what he meant, and then he realized that he'd hurt people only being in his point of view. And to me, I figure his wife got in his ear because she has his ear all the time. And, you know, they may have made a political decision there, considering he's got 50 million coming over the next 2 years and a chance to win a Super Bowl and other things coming. But I think too, the tears of his teammates, and then, yo, man, this is sincere. We told you this is what's going on. The dude is dead. This is why we were protesting. Here's a real life example of what we've been trying to tell you. It's like what you said at the beginning of the call. Yeah, Ren, I heard you telling me this goes on. You've seen and felt what we're talking about now, and there's no denying it anymore. So
I think it's just complicated, right? I mean, people's emotions in general are complicated, right? Because I could see Breeze as a guy who at least is willing to be pulled in two directions. Some white people, a lot of white people, okay, they are like, you know, just, you don't kneel for the national anthem, or I mean, you know, you always stand up, you show proper respect, and that's it. I don't care who you are, okay? But then there are some people, okay, like Breeze, who may be kind of pulled in two directions, right? Because he's still got his family ties with his grandparents, and he feels some kind of allegiance to them. And at the same time, you know, he plays in a predominantly black city. Most of his teammates are black. I'm guessing he's had good interactions with them. I've always heard his teammates say really good things about him and what kind of a leader he is. And I think he's just being pulled in two directions. And it's almost like, you know, you can't make everybody happy, okay?
Right.
And I think he was genuine in his apology, but at the same time, I don't even know if he had to apologize. I mean, because he wasn't saying, look, I don't think Colin Kaepernick should kneel, or I don't think other people should kneel. I just personally don't respect it. It's not for me. Okay.
But what he said was, it's disrespectful. So
yes,
the words he used were, it's disrespectful, period. And he doubled down on it, and he was emphatic about it. So the way he said it communicated that you're discounting my opinion, period, number one. Number two, and white people do this a lot. Black people, we have shame, but it doesn't dominate us like it does most white people. Shame is a great way to motivate white people. Shame and economic loss. Okay,
yes.
He got both of those in that one, because they just drafted or signed a quarterback that can take his place, and so they don't have to pay him. He brought shame to the organization, to the people. It's embarrassing. The timing is off. It feels more political than it does, but the embarrassment factor is, I think, the reason why. Because at this point right now, with the climate and things, it's more embarrassing than it is. And that's a big feature in adjusting white people's perspective.
This is a thing like, you know, you're right about the shame. You know, white people, okay, listen, I've said this before, all of us are racist to some extent as white people. It is impossible to grow up in America as a white person, not harbor racist beliefs here and there, okay? It's a matter of the level. But the white people who are not just outwardly, clearly racist, okay? Those people, they'll freely admit they're racist. They wear their racism on a sleeve and they're proud of it.
Cool.
A lot of white people who are kind of, secretly racist or kind of subtly racist, they never want to admit that they're racist. Like, that's the one thing, that's, that's shame, but they don't want to be told that they're racist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm doing 14 racist things here, man. And they're blatantly racist, but please don't call me that, because that would embarrass my family. Please don't call me that, because that would embarrass my employer, and I'm gonna be out of work, and I gotta pay this mortgage, and unemployment ain't gonna cut it. Yeah, I got the Klan suit hanging up, dry clean, ready to go, but I promise you, I'm not racist, man. I mean that from every, you see what I'm saying? The embarrassment feature, and listen, I like the outright open air races.
Yeah, I've heard this
I
before.
like them.
You know where you stand with them.
Yeah. Listen, okay, tell me if I step on your property, you're going to shoot at me. Thank you. Don't let me walk 15 steps in where I got to run 15 steps back and you got a head start on me shooting at me. Tell me so. I respect the open races. I hate the Klansmen that wear the robe. Walk around with the robe and the hood off. Please. Listen, for the life of me, I love my black skin, but I can't hide it. It's on me every day. You see it coming before you know who I am. And then I'm 6+ feet tall. How do I hide in the room? It's got to be dark in there.
I will tell you about a moment I had, or this was when I was much younger, and I haven't looked at the world this way in a long time, but I'll tell you, because I believe that a lot of white people still do look at it this way. And, I think there's elements of this in me as well, okay? I used to think, I used to have sympathy for white people who were called racists, okay? Because I thought, man, it hurts a white person so much to be called a racist. And now, okay, I'll tell you, I look back on thinking that and thinking, man, that is a ludicrous idea, because as upset as a white person may be about being called a racist, it has got to be so much worse for black people to actually be the recipients of constant racism, okay? But I know that a lot of white people still look at it the way that I used to, okay? And that sometimes in my moments of weakness, I still may, okay? I've said before, my development in this is a process as well.
The majority of it is unreal and is painful, but there are occasions where some of this racism is funny.
Tell me, what do you mean? Tell me about that. Because I would have never used that term funny to describe racism, but maybe it's kind of like with us Jews, right? Where like so much horrible shit has happened to us over the centuries that we're like, hell, we got to make fun of ourselves at some point or make fun of anti-Semitism. But I've never looked at racism that way. Explain that to me.
I mean, some stuff is just so egregious, man. It's like ridiculous. Like some of these people putting these posts up on Instagram, this whole Karen phenomenon, going out of their way and doing things, and then the stuff they do ends up catching them, and it's to a point, man, where if you can't find a way to divest the painful energy in it, then it's going to consume and bring you down. So some stuff happens, you don't even call it out. You're just like, wow, but.
Was that the way, I'm just curious, that you looked at the Amy Cooper thing with, with her in Central Park with that gentleman?
No, I didn't. No. That really pissed me off.
Okay.
Because she was in the wrong in the first place. And then she decided I'm going to take and use this police weapon that I just told you 300 years of this shit, from 1791 till now, we're year after year of this aggressive, I'm going to call these people that I know and trust that we know are going to hurt us to come and get you, Mr. Gay Black Man. Because you're telling me that I should have my dog on a leash. You're out of place to tell me anything.
Right.
Yeah, no, that pissed me off. I was actually hoping that they would prosecute her and cause the harm on her that she was trying to cause on him.
She called the police and lied to them. Why is she not being prosecuted for making a false report? I don't understand this. No, wait, I do understand this. I'm sorry, that was stupid.
Are there laws on the book for it?
For false reporting? Absolutely. I mean, I don't know the New York laws, but I mean, you just lied to the police. You should be prosecuted.
Yeah, well, so it's funny, man. Like, black people get charged with stuff and they find every count they can put on it.
Yeah, no, that's true.
You know?
The thing with the Amy Cooper thing, because this is where, okay, like to your point where like you say, at least you understand the upfront racists, the upfront Klansmen. You have a level of comfort with them because you know where they're coming from. Mm-hmm. I understand that viewpoint, okay, because I feel the same way about them as a Jew, okay? I know exactly where they are. There's not hiding anything. And of course, the Jewish experience in America is, of course, totally different than the black experience. But
I don't know.
The thing with, with the Amy Cooper thing, where I saw liberals coming out showing their true colors, is afterward. Mm-hmm. When I saw so many comments that were saying, well, you know what? She did a horrible thing to that guy, but also look at how she treated her dog. And I'm just thinking, what in the hell is wrong with you people? There is no moral equivalency between what she did to that guy. Okay, mm-hmm. She was getting ready to ruin his life on a lie because she knows the way the police are with black men accused of doing things against white women. Mm-hmm. And to try to combine that or somehow compare that to the way that she was treating her dog because she pulled on her collar a little bit. I mean, there is no moral equivalency here. And the liberals who were saying these are the liberals who are convenient liberals and who think they're such wonderful people and fail to see their own racism in despicable viewpoints like that. I'm sorry, but I do not equate a dog to a human being. I love animals. I love my dog. I will not equate a dog to a human being.
I agree with you on that premise, but let me throw a little extra in there for you. People that do that, the dog in her life is probably the same as their dog. It's the only friend they have, which is how they could be so hurt that the dog is being hurt, because when they go home, there's not another human being waiting on them. There's not a human being calling them to take them out. I mean, they're not calling them to check on their wife and kids like you call and check on yours.
Maybe, but this was everybody. It wasn't just people here and there. It was a lot of people who came out of the woodwork saying, oh, the poor dog. And I'm like, the poor dog, I mean, focus on what's really important here.
Well, I mean, and that's what I'm saying. In their life, the most important thing is the dog. I mean, I got clients who they get benefits, like you provide benefits for your people, health insurance, whatever. They ain't got no health insurance for the kid. The company doesn't offer that. But for the dog and the chinchilla is getting a checkup when she ain't going to see the gynecologist, bro. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not against your point. Your point is very valid and well taken. And yes, the man's life matters more. It always matters more to me, whether he's black or white. But the focal point on some of these people is that's what's most important to them. And I think where we're getting in this society, the thing that's killing us is we do too much projection and labeling. So I'm not looking at her as a liberal or a Democrat or a Republican. She's a lonely ass human being with no human connection and who still thinks that somehow she's better than most people for her stature. So if we could get out of the labels, we could get to people's nature. That's where you fix problems. I'm not mad at Republicans for being Republicans. They're Republicans, just like I'm not mad at Democrats for being Democrats. They're still people. And at the core, you got to get to a man's nature.
I had this experience there with this labeling, right? Because, people use labeling to make sense of the world, right? We have so many complex ideas and so many things going on. Well, today, on Facebook, there was a post on there, and this one woman whom I don't know, and I've seen this before many times, and it always pisses me off, Mm-hmm. She made a comparison of both Donald Trump, whom I can't stand, and Michael Hancock, who's the black mayor of Denver. Mm-hmm. She compared both of them to Hitler. And I've seen this all the time with the Hitler thing. And even no matter how much I despise Donald Trump, I don't compare him to Hitler.
You don't like Donald?
And I explained to her, I'm like, listen, man, some things are so terrible, so unique, they go into their own category. Mm-hmm. Now, the Holocaust and Hitler, those are those types of things. Donald Trump is awful. Michael Hancock, I'm not a big Michael Hancock fan, but he's the mayor of Denver. He does some things I don't like, but I mean, comparing him to Hitler is insane. And I'm like, ma'am, when you do that, okay, you are minimizing the loss of 6 million of my people. It is offensive to me. And I said, please don't do that. Okay. If you just did it this one time, okay, and you know, you want to take it back, I think, you know, everyone does it, and, you know, please apologize. And, you know, if you're sincere, you know, it happens. But if you continue to believe this after I've told you now twice, okay, and I told you at that point twice, that this is anti-Semitism, okay, and you do not acknowledge it, okay, because you are more concerned with labeling John or Michael Hancock and Donald Trump as Hitler, okay, then really at that point you are an anti-Semite, and I've got nothing else for you. You know, I've seen the same thing too, you know, with some people. Like, I remember I entered a friendship with someone about this because there was this situation where the press secretary, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, was denied service in a restaurant in Virginia.
Yeah, I remember that.
And this guy who's a big Trump supporter says, you know, this is just like Rosa Parks in the 1960s. And I'm like, are you out of your goddamn mind? Okay, there is no comparison here whatsoever. And he and his other Trump supporters are saying the same shit over and over, like this is the civil rights movement over and over. I'm like, some things you cannot compare to. Okay, segregation, Jim Crow, these things were so awful, you do not compare other things to them. They are in their own category.
And you know, I hear that perspective, and for a while I was running with it. And the thing that's helped me communicate better is before I go there with that energy, which is the first thing that does come up sometimes, I slow down to hear what's going on in their mind and how they correlate to the example they're using, so that then I can take that and say, oh, okay, well, cool. You can understand me better if you understand segregation, then, or you know who Rosa Parks is, I can take what happened to Rosa Parks and tell you that and get my point to you. And the slowing down there and letting them tell me where they are before I label them with ignorance definitely helps in the communication area, because, okay, I know where you're at now. That's just a classroom thing from being a school teacher for a while. I got to find out where the kid is. Now I can reach the kid and get him where I need him to go, or her where I need her to go. And if we spent a little more time, once we got through being outraged at wherever a person is, and then labeling that outrage with whatever we do, we actually could hear where they are. And when they feel heard, they'll go with you. The reason I say that to you is because you have the capacity to be a great leader of people, which is why I'm excited for your congressional run. I think, you know, you're going to do well. The hard part for you is going to be going to a town hall when you have a room full of people who don't like the fact that you don't like Trump, and they want to tear a piece of your ass off. Because your wife might want you to have something when you get home to sit on the furniture and play with the kids. You know what I'm saying? Just a thought, man. Save a little bit for them.
No, you know, this is where your interpersonal skills are clearly better than mine. Okay, because I think your approach is a more sensible one. It's like you want to understand them, explain to them where you're coming from, and hopefully, you know, get them to come around to a more sensible viewpoint.
You can borrow this for a few days, brother. Put it on and roll, brother. You'll learn a whole lot real quick.
You ever read the book Black Like Me?
I started reading it, but I haven't finished it yet.
You know, it was interesting, right? Because this was a white guy who, you know, and even then, I didn't realize in the 1960s, there were a lot of white people who were playing, oh, there's really no racism in our society. And this guy, you know, when he wrote Black Like Me and he took a bunch of this medication, a white guy, to make himself appear as a black man, he said, look, things are totally different. I'm not encouraging any person to do that right now. This guy actually suffered a lot of health effects from doing that. But it would be fascinating right now for a white person to do something like that, especially like if it was a conservative white person. I mean, I would love to see, like if I was Bill Gates, I would pay someone, have them sign the waivers. Say, look, you know, let's have you literally live in the skin of a black man for the next 6 months. Okay. And I don't want to take a liberal to do it. Okay. You know, I want to take, you know, like a Klansman to do that and say, look, I'm going to give you $10 million to do this, and you report back on what your life was like. I think it would be fascinating in 2000.
Don't give him 10 mil, man. Give him the choice of his life, because we're having a Black Like Me moment for the last 2 weeks. Okay. Everybody in the world is saying Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it was a horrible name to say. All lives matter, all that stuff, and everybody was polarized and divided. Now it's painted on. Now they call the White House 1600 Black Lives Matter Plaza. Figure that out. I'm sure the president is not happy about that. Trump Tower in New York is Barack Obama Lane. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
But we're having that moment now, and that's a good thing,
Yeah.
because the problem in this country is we're so tribal and so me against you, and
Yeah.
you're not hearing me, and we don't take the time to stand in each other's shoes. If the world just treated everybody they see the way they do their spouse or significant other, you don't get a damn thing out of your wife. You don't slow down and stand in her shoes for a few minutes every day.
No, that's a good point. Yeah. So I mean,
And,
the skills are there, right, to see
mhm.
another person's perspective, that because they have to be in order to have a relationship. It's just that we don't want to extend them to people who are different from us or that we're not closely aligned with.
And I'm going to take it a step further and make it a little more simpler. Sometimes we're just too busy being us, and we enjoy that too much. And, you know, as by humans, we're self-serving. So it's what we do.
All right, moving on to something you touched upon earlier, okay? And this is, and a person that I had in mind, and that's Candace Owens. Now,
Oh,
Candace Owens really has, functioned as like the black mascot for the Republican Party.
mm,
Every time I see something, like someone disagrees with the Black Lives Matter movement or, there's a brutality issue, it's always they parade around Candace Owens, okay? That really is a justification for a lot of their beliefs anyway. And, and we got Clarence Thomas too. And now the term Uncle Tom, is, I know, a very, very insulting term from one black person to another. Okay. Now,
yeah.
I have had the urge to use a term like that towards someone like Candace Owens, but I don't think it's appropriate for me to use it. Okay. As a white person, I don't think it is remotely appropriate enough for me to tell a person that they're not black enough, which, by the way, is the same thing that Joe Biden did, okay, just a week ago, right, where he told someone, or a week and a half, that they weren't black enough, and he didn't catch enough flack for that. Okay, that like just came and went. Okay, we have selective memories here, right? Joe Biden specifically told someone, that if you're voting for Trump, you ain't black, which I think is absolutely absurd. Okay, I mean, for a white person, a 70-year-old white man, to tell a black person that they're not black enough. But what I'm wondering is, what is like the black community's response? And I'm not to a person like Candace Owens. What is the response? Well, at least, again, I don't want you to be the spokesman, but among you, okay, and your friends and family, what is the response to someone like Candace Owens, who clearly has a different viewpoint of blackness and the black experience than so many other black people do?
Well, I'm not going to speak for every black person on this one. I will say that I'm sure there are some black people who are proud of her because she presents well. She's not bad to look at. She can be very intelligent when she speaks. She can make a point.
Sure.
She can have command over you. She's docile. She's not threatening. And she is capable of taking something you might be feeling in the short term and articulating it for you, so you can say, yeah. She's good at what she does. I'm not even going to call her an Uncle Tom. And yes, you're correct. There are certain trigger terms in certain cultures that everybody should just pay respect to. There are terms, I'm sure, in your background, that if I said them would be offensive. So we'll just respect that they're there. And if I use it and say, okay, Igor, in your culture, you might say this person is that true? As referenced by XYZ person, that keeps you safe, from throwing an offense out. But I will say this for Candace Owens, in my personal opinion of what I know of her. The black community helped her to get up and running, in some instances, credibility and clout-wise. And she's made a way for herself in being able to be paid to be a dissenting voice or a narrative changer. She gets paid to change the narrative. She was on Facebook Live the other day, 40 million views when I saw it. She says, yeah, it was wrong for George Floyd to get killed, but I don't like that we're making a martyr out of him. And my disposition is I don't think that we are. But her disposition was, well, even though he turned his life around 5 years ago, I see him as the criminal history, and let me read it to you. And she proceeded to read off his criminal past. Aggravated or attempted assault, attempted murder on some white lady that they were going to impersonate themselves as some other people. She went laying it out, and I'm paraphrasing, so go back and hear all of it for yourself to get it right. She's not going to get past his history. And if that's the disposition we have to take on someone, then we're in trouble. Because I don't think the world is martyring George Floyd. I think his name, George Floyd, simplifies the overwhelming concept of everything we've been saying happens to us, and then everything you saw happen to him, and then all the bystanders, so that it summarizes as something that can, it's like your computer. When you're describing it, you don't describe all the parts and hard drive and everything, you just say, it's my computer. George Floyd simplifies this overwhelming concept. We can place it at a time and date and a feeling and everything. I don't like that she's minimizing this dude, and she hurts her arguments with this crap. So I could keep going, but you know, the brass tacks bottom line is for her to say that she quoted Shelby Steele. I will say this, because this one got me. She quoted Shelby Steele, an older conservative mixed guy, who said that Black people we always glorify the dregs of our society. We deify them and martyrize them. And I'm thinking to myself, she must never have seen Bonnie and Clyde, Thelma and Louise, Pretty Woman. She must never have, if the way she's saying that is true, then I got to get rid of my Bible, because if it's just the way Floyd did it, you know, if he's assaulting people or murdering folks, attempting to murder, Moses is an unrepentant murderer, so I can't read the first 5 books of the Bible no more. David murdered some people, so I can't read some of the Psalms no more. Paul's name was Saul. He was murdering people before he got saved, so all his letters are out. If it's fraud and forgery, the president still ain't turned over the stuff we need to see to find out if he did any of that. So who do I support turning their life around? You see what I'm saying? So some of her arguments, if you just slow down and process them, disqualify her. And the scary part is most people don't take the time, because once she tickles your ear and makes you feel good, you accept it and you roll. That's my summation on her.
You know, I'll tell you this, like, I don't understand well the Black mind, because I don't live as a Black person, but I understand the white mind very well. And the white mind, conservative white people who love her right now will turn on her in a heartbeat the moment that she doesn't agree with them on an important issue. You know, Michael Steele used to be the Black chairman of the Republican Party, okay? And when he was all rah-rah behind the Republican Party, he's good, right? But never Trumper, okay? He's still a conservative guy, but he's a sensible conservative guy, and he's a never Trumper. Suddenly he's not okay in that book anymore. And Candace Owens has made a deal with the devil here. Either she agrees with these people all the time, okay, or the moment that she doesn't, they're going to drop her immediately and find someone else.
I think she's figured out she's got a great cash cow. She's going to stack her chips so that her money's making money for her. And then she's going to be like, you know what? I've done enough and I'm out. And at that point, she'll have enough money to go somewhere where very few people will recognize her. She'll change her name, blend in, and disappear. And I think she's a grifter myself. That's my personal opinion. You ask any other Black people how they feel, because there's some Black people that like her. You know, while she's not a drag in society, she is somewhat successful at what she does. And I mean, for somebody that wants to see an example of somebody doing stuff, she's on TV, she's in front of Congress. Okay, that most Black women don't get that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we got what? Kamala Harris is one of 2 Black people in the Senate, women.
The other one's is a Republican. Yeah.
Right. So, you know, people see her and they see her doing things they aspire to do. So I just think she's making her money and setting her plan, and yeah, they're going to turn on her. She knows it's coming. And when they do, she'll be financially set and never need anybody for anything, and she's going to go on about her business.
Yeah.
And people will feel fleeced.
Ren, good talk. Thank you, sir. As usual, you help me see things in a different way.
You're a good man. Let me say it. Let me give you this plug.
Hey, what now?
I want to give you a plug because I know you're going to put this online for people to see, man. Let me ask you one question.
Yeah.
Or a couple. Well, you want to make this congressional run. I mean, I've known you for years, and you say you're tough and hot-headed and disagreeable. You may not listen to, or let me rephrase it, you may argue a point in the present, but I've known you to go back, listen to the point, come back later, you know, having heard it.
Right.
So why do you want to be the congressman? What's that about?
Frankly, Ren, I don't. I don't want to do this. Okay. I have better things to do with my time. Okay. I've got a law firm to run. Okay. I've got a family that I love that I would love to spend more time with. Okay. I've got a music hobby that I wish I could spend more time on that. I've been very fortunate to have very good friends I'd like to spend more time with. But there's two things. Number one, I feel I'm really concerned about my kids' future in the United States. And I feel a civic duty. It's not that, you know, I'm going to be some kind of a savior. Okay. But I don't see anyone else doing it that I like. Okay. That I would support in my congressional district. So I want to do it myself. Okay. And I want to show my kids, I want to be able to look back on my life and probably tell my kids, if you really believe in something, you want to make something better, then you go and you try to actually get it done. Okay. Regardless of the outcome, you try to get it done. So that's one thing. Okay. The other thing is my big thing. Okay. It's not about me getting elected. It's about what I believe in, and my big platform is anti-corruption. I want public financing of elections. I think that big money, corporate money, has absolutely corrupted our politics completely. Okay. I think almost every single member of Congress is corrupt. I think almost every state legislator is corrupt. Okay. I think we have a lot of judges who are elected are corrupt because they are being paid by a lot of outside interests to function in a way that they do. And I've had enough of it. Okay. And I think we all need to have enough of it. I'm sick and tired of people saying, well, you know, every other congressman is terrible, mine is great. No, yours sucks too. Okay. They're all garbage, throw them all out. There might be less than 10 congressmen, okay, or senators, members of Congress who are not thoroughly corrupt. Okay. Maybe Bernie Sanders, maybe AOC, I don't know. But eventually, you know, the vast majority of them are, and that's my platform. If there is a way that we can put, you know, campaign or public financing of elections and the elimination of corruption in our government on the map without me winning, I'm perfectly okay with that. But otherwise, if I do win, let me tell you, okay, every day, okay, while everyone else, you know, the average congressperson spends 70% of their time, okay, fundraising. I don't plan on taking any corporate donations, no personal donations above $500, okay, no exceptions, period, okay. But every day while they're out there doing fundraising, I'm going to have story time. I'm going to get into the halls of Congress, pull up a congressperson, okay, say, this is the money that you took and this is how you voted. You are corrupt. Every single day, that's what I plan on doing. That is my big thing.
So you don't plan on surviving one term, huh?
You know,
and that's it, huh?
The thing is, right, I've always thought that the people, that one of the sad things about democracy is that the people who run are the people who shouldn't run. The people you don't want to run, okay? So many of the people have no business being there, because if you have an ambition to be a politician, okay, you probably shouldn't run. I have no ambition. I don't want to do this. I'm not looking forward to this. I mean, in some respects I am. I'm going to have fun with this because I'm going to say everything that needs to be said, okay? And then I think needs to be heard about how just ridiculously screwed up our government is. But like, look, if I don't get elected, that's fine. I'll run again. If I do get elected and I get bounced, that's fine. I'll run again, because my message is never going to change. And that is an anti-corruption message, public financing of elections.
So when story time is over, okay, you do story time. I don't want you to give the whole platform away, but what's step two? Because at a certain point, you're going to have consensus from these people you're telling on to vote on whatever legislation you get drawn up to change the corruption.
You know, the thing is that I think that corruption is at the root of a lot of the other problems that we have. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Obama brought them out when his first healthcare package, okay, was actually better than what we ended up having. Okay. Remember, there was the public option,
Mm-hmm.
and there were a lot more restrictions on insurance companies, and there were more mechanisms in there to control the increasing rate of the expense of insurance. But then every single lobbyist and every corporate bought and paid for politician got their grubby little hands on it and just made it worse.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to me, you want to solve healthcare, okay, you got to deal with corruption. Climate change. Why haven't we done anything about climate change, which is really important to me and really concerning to me? Okay, it's because we have too many corporate interests are preventing it from happening. Okay, even with police brutality. Okay, we have too many people out there, okay, who are beholden to these police unions, okay, that are protecting bad cops. So I think, you know, the foundation of everything is this corruption, and I think if we can deal with that, it becomes easier to solve these other problems. Never easy, okay? Government isn't supposed to be easy, but I think you have to deal with corruption before you can deal with some of these other social issues that we're dealing with, or I mean, look, you got to deal with police brutality right now. Okay, you got to deal with healthcare right now. You've got to deal, okay, with education right now. But I think a lot of that stuff becomes more manageable when you deal with this cancer that we have in our society.
So, okay, the corruption usually leads to the money. If you go in and try to cut the people that are putting up the money, but you don't have a plan for a new infusion of money. Well, I'm not saying you don't. I guess my question is, where is you're going to stop the corrupt money from coming in? How do we get everybody to come get the clean money, good money? Because it don't seem like it's enough. I mean, AOC got money. She's a small dollar donor like Bernie, but how do you get everybody else to jump that bandwagon?
That's where we need the public financing. Really, it's got to come from taxpayers. Us as taxpayers, we have to pay for certain things. And, if, you know, we have to pay more, okay, to actually get good government. I'm okay with that. Remember, too, you know, we can make certain rules as well. Like right now, okay, the Federal Communications Commission licenses every TV station, every radio station. Okay, the Telecommunications Commission has a lot of control over the internet. And we say, well, look, you know, for you simply have to have much cheaper or reduced rates, or just designate certain time for political candidates for office, and just don't charge them that. Everyone, you know, who has a reasonable shot of running, okay, they have some kind of access to the airways, basically. And I haven't worked out all these details. I plan on working on this in the next few years, and I want to look to other countries to see what they've done, because I know that other countries do have public financing of elections and have been able to deal with this problem like we haven't.
I think you'll have a good time connecting to the cynics that are like you. But when you tell them, hey, man, I need another one of your dollars to pay for this, I won't put you on the spot and ask you how you're going to convey that message to get them rah, rah, sis, boom, bah on you. But I may ask you in the next couple of conversations. So I'd be curious to hear that, because if you pull that off, I mean, you're a bad MF anyway, but if you pull that off, not only are you going to get elected, man, but you have a great shot of pulling the entirety of your vision off. So I'd be curious to hear that.
You're not even putting me on the spot. I've thought about this, and this is where I'm going to run a counterintuitive campaign too, because it's not just about getting elected. It's about sending a certain message. I plan on basically putting a mirror up to people and having all of us take accountability for the situation that we've put ourselves in. Say, you know what? You keep blaming government, okay, as though they exist outside of you. You keep blaming Washington, although it exists outside of you. You keep blaming these politicians as though they exist outside of you. Well, who in the hell put all these people into power? You did, okay? So get them the hell out, okay? And at the same time, you're over here complaining where our roads are garbage, our schools are garbage, this is garbage, that is garbage. Okay, who's mismanaging our money, and why don't we have enough money? Okay, in Colorado, for example, you know, we are terrible about education funding. Why? Because we passed the Taxpayer Bill of Rights and we're starving our schools. I'm okay with paying a little bit more to get better stuff. And I want people to do that as well. And I want people to be accountable, saying, look, if you really believe that these politicians are bad, then put your money where your mouth is and stop voting for their asses. Get them out of there.
Would you, just devil's advocate, would it be easier for you, or more pragmatic, if you will, to whip shit into shape in Colorado first and then go to Congress, or maybe whip it in Colorado and become the governor? You replace Polis and fix a few things where you have a blueprint that you can take national, because you go to presidency then, brother.
It's a good point. For whatever reason.
Igor 2024.
Yeah. No, I can't. Remember, I'm ineligible to be president. I wasn't born in the country. You have to be native born. Yeah. No, for some reason, Ren, it just doesn't appeal to me. I don't know why, but, and really, Colorado, we have some problems, but overall, we are better run than the nation is. Like, for example, Colorado has a balanced budget amendment. It says, we can't, we have to balance our budget every year. Okay, at least we don't screw that up like the government with all the debt that it's running. So,
well, I mean, you can take Colorado and turn it into the 15th largest economy, be on the list with California.
Right.
I'm not trying to dash your congressional.
No, I get it.
I was just asking pragmatically, if you had a plan that worked in Denver and in Colorado, national is next. I mean, that's what Ronald Reagan did.
Right. No, maybe at some point I shift my focus there. I don't know. We'll see. This is something, I haven't had this ambition at all times to be a politician. This is something really that's crossed my mind more as my kids have gotten older and as Trump got elected, and I've just gotten more and more pissed off with American politics.
I'm with you, man. I was looking out for the family, man, because I'm sure the family would love for you to be doing all this great work, but you come home every night, not fly back and forth 3 or 4 days a week. And I know you care about your baby, so you don't want to miss these next sets of formative years. You in D.C. while some young ugly dude's trying to holler at him.
All right, man. Good talk. We'll have to pick a topic next time. I'm thinking, another thing we may want to discuss actually is religion in American politics.
That'd be interesting.
I know you are a man of faith. I am not, but at the same time, I do want to get other perspectives.
The heavens versus the heathens. Lord have mercy.
The saint versus
the sinner.
Beyond the sinner, like, Satan, Lucifer.
Man, whatever, dude. I know you're hard on yourself, man, but we don't last 30 years if you're not of any type of quality, dude. So,
especially given that you're a Lakers fan, I can't stand them.
There are certain things, man, that are just bestowed on some people that aren't bestowed on others, man. Yeah. You still got your looks. I got my Lakers. We in good shape, man. One of these days, you'll aspire to greatness, though.
We're going to have to get together soon, man.
We will, brother.
All this COVID stuff is over.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Take care, man.
Appreciate you.
Good talk. Bye.
All right.